everyone. Thanks for coming. I want to go back to last year, this time, sitting in front of you and talking about making changes and making difficult decisions. And we had a bunch of them. We obviously traded Alex DeMar, and at trade deadline we moved Zach, and all those changes were basically in order to accomplish 4 goals. And number one was to define our style of play, to change our shooting profile, and from the first day in preseason, I think we put emphasis on that, and the guys were able to sustain it through the year, and they've done a great job. Second goal was to retain our 2025 first and picks moving forward. I think we accomplished that. Third goal was how we're going to build this roster, and I think we tried to minimize our timeline to be in transition, in the first year of transition. So we targeted young players with experience, and I think a lot of our moves represented that. And the fourth is basically what we need always to do, is to focus on internal development of our players. And a lot of players on this roster took a step forward this year, and obviously, that's a progress. Next couple of months will obviously, the game happened yesterday. Obviously, everyone is disappointed the way we played the last month and a half. To finish like that, obviously nobody wanted that. Players, coaches, and front office is disappointed to go out this way. However, we're going to focus next 2 months how we can improve this roster. We're going to prepare for 2025 draft, and then obviously free agency. And going into 2026 season, how we can be better, and getting to the summer of 2026 and financial flexibility, I think we can improve our roster that way as well. So that's basically, we are not where we want to be. I thought that we will look at every opportunity to improve this roster, but I think we took right steps with this group, and I think we are on the right path. Again, there's small wins this season with the improvement of our players, and playing meaningful games and teaching them how, what goes into winning. Obviously we wanted to continue playing, but yesterday happened what happened, and now we're going to focus on our off season. And with that, I'll take your questions.
Artūras, you kind of already mentioned this with the financial flexibility in 2026. You're going to add a draft pick to a roster that's already got many guaranteed contracts coming back. So is the only way to make changes, significant changes this offseason, via the trade market?
Well, I think we're always going to look to improve our roster. Would that be through draft, through trades, or free agency? And we're going to keep an eye open all the time.
Yeah, Artūras, I hear you talking about financial flexibility in 2026. It sounds like you're asking the fans for patience if you're looking forward that far ahead. Are you asking the fans for patience?
Well, I'm asking for fans of patience because we're in the first year of that transition. I thought that the way we finished the year shows some promise. It's hard to win games in this league, and to finish 15-5, yeah, it's not a victory lap, but I think there's some positives. And I think we got to keep on building on this group by adding another player in the lottery, by going to free agency and adding another piece. And obviously, going in the summer, that's when the players get better. So hopefully our young group will focus this summer on getting better and come back so we can make another jump next year.
Artūras, a couple quick questions. Have you had any contact with Denver about going back to Denver, or have they reached out to you about the opening there, or no?
No, I mean I'm in Chicago. I'm focused only on this roster and what's.
Have Jerry or Michael said to you things have to change or jobs are on the line, specifically yours?
Well, you know, we have a very good relationship with Jerry and Michael. I think we take pride, especially in this building, everybody being on the same page. It's very hard to accomplish, but that's how it is in this building. Cohesion between the ownership, front office, coaching staff, performance staff. So they've been always very supportive of my decisions or my thoughts and, you know, about this direction. When we sat down a year ago, it was a challenging year. As you remember, I was sitting here. Obviously, we didn't know what we were going to do with this group. So they've been very supportive, and I consistently talk to them, you know, from game to game. So there's no misunderstanding there. So there's some positives. Obviously, that's not where we want to be, but we took a step forward this year.
And then finally, with the plan you laid out, there has been no talk about how you guys are going to figure out how to add an elite player. Until you do that, you're stuck in mediocrity. And the thing you talked about last year at this time was getting out of mediocrity. So I'm confused with why you think this plan is going to work when there's no plan.
Well, I think there is a plan, and I think that we always going to be looking how to improve this roster by adding a player or high caliber player. At the same time, I would not put any limitations on this roster or on the way Kobe has been playing or the way Josh has been playing. So I think those players have a chance of playing on a very high level. So we constantly going to be looking for ways to improve, you know, from year to year. And now our focus is next 2 months. We don't know. We cannot speculate what's going to happen leading to the draft, but there's going to be opportunities that we might be, you know, getting there. So.
Artūras, you talked about wanting to shorten the timeline for this kind of rebuild. What do you think is a realistic timeline for this next project, and do you feel pressure if you can't deliver along that?
Well, pressure, you know, I know exactly where I am, you know, the history of this club, you know, the fan. We have the best fan base, the best building in the league. In terms of, like, I cannot define the actual timeline, but what we need to do is build on the positives this year and this young group and look to ways to improve and come back next year with a little bit higher expectations. And that's why, you know, those guys are, you know, competing for something at the end of the year. I think yesterday was a very harsh lesson, but hopefully, you know, they can learn from that.
Artūras, I have a two-parter for you. As far as Josh Giddey is concerned, how you handled P. Will's restricted free agency last summer inform how you go about handling Josh's this summer? And if he is back, what do you feel from a roster building standpoint is the best way to optimize him?
Well, I think when we were targeting him in trade last year, I think, you know, with our style of play and how we're going to be playing this year, I think with that in mind, I thought that when he came in and tried to fit in and how he started the year, he was looking how he can impact the game and obviously new teammates. And following All-Star weekend, I think he just found completely new gear and, averaged 21, 11, and 9. He actually rebounded better than Vooch, which is hard to do. So he found a niche. He found, belief in himself. Obviously, this group, they found another gear. Would that be Kobe, Josh, even Mathis with his new role? So I think he fits really well here, and I hope to see him here for next years to come.
Artūras, I'm going to follow up on what Drew just asked because I was going to ask something similar. Brooklyn really is the only team that projects to have max salary cap space. So how will you kind of handle those restricted free agency negotiations, especially with the way Patrick's situation played out? And I have a follow-up question to that.
Well, I'm not going to go into details how I'm going to handle it, but I think, everybody knows the ins and outs of restricted free agency. But I feel really good about, Josh and his future here. So we'll take one day at a time.
Got it. And then following up on that, Kobe's extension eligible this offseason, obviously, but has clearly outplayed that contract. How will you kind of handle that tap dance, knowing that he's, possibly entering unrestricted free agency in 2026? And would you like to keep him through past 2026?
Well, Kobe's progression every year has been unbelievable. He always found another level. Obviously, after All-Star weekend, and he improved the scoring average by 6, and he was the player of the month. He found his voice with this group, and he's obviously enjoying playing with this group. So when the time comes, we'll talk to him. But I think he's done unbelievable job this year, and again, all this group is going to learn from what happened yesterday. So.
Why are you guys so against taking major steps back when the history of the league says that top 5 picks is the quickest way to turn things around and sustain things? Either drafting that pick or trading and acquiring that pick. It seems like you guys are so stuck on this philosophy of competitive integrity, and when the history of the league screams at you that that's wrong.
Well, I do believe in the way we wanted to build this roster is basically having players that have experience to kind of shrink the timeline and continuously, look for other ways to improve your roster. And I truly believe, I think Billy spoke before and after every game about how important it is for this young group to focus on winning and what goes into winning, instead of just rolling the ball out and tell them to go and develop. So this is very important for us, and that's the path we chose.
In your opening remarks just now, you talked about one of the pillars or building blocks of what you wanted to do was change the style of play, which you did, and seemed happy about what occurred offensively, almost fast-paced and all that. But it seems like it lacks you built a very offensive team, and particularly, it's just one game, but sort of the lack defense was sort of exposed. Is that a concern? How do you try to address that, and how do you do that with the building blocks of the roster that you have that's so offensive-oriented?
Well, we definitely have things to improve. Obviously minimizing turnovers. Turnovers hurt us all year, although after All-Star break we were actually 9th in the league, so we reduced them. Second chance points, again, it was a problem all year. And then, defensive identity. We got to actually defend more as a team, and obviously yesterday's, game was a good example in terms of missing assignments and all this stuff. So there's areas for us to improve, for sure, but you can't fix all at the same time. So we're gonna, look at our season and see what we can correct for next year.
Do you still feel like Billy, after the last few seasons, do you still feel like he's the correct fit for coach here?
Oh, absolutely. I think, we have a very close relationship. We work very closely together. I thought he's done an unbelievable job to transform this group and accomplish certain goals of changing the way we played last year. And it's a buy-in from the players' perspective. They buy in what Billy is trying to teach them, and they respond to him. So he's done an unbelievable job, and I have full confidence moving forward with Billy.
Artūras, you mentioned the timeline and trying to minimize the kind of downswing. And obviously, you and Billy have both talked a lot about the competitive integrity and making sure that these guys are playing meaningful games. And I understand the value in that, but at the same time, it comes at the cost of potentially going towards the bottom of the lottery. And so, do you worry with just the decisions that you've made to kind of try to speed things up that you might get stuck in the middle again with this group, but without kind of outs to go find a guy in the draft or, with free agency?
I mean, look, I have full confidence in our staff. Regardless where we're picking, I think we can always find value. And, watching what Matas has done and his progression during the year, I think that gives you hope. And again, the way I defined it, the way we want to build it, is with young players with experience. And you projected, I think, before the year that we're going to have 28 wins, and we had 39. So obviously, this group knows that expectations are going to be higher next year, and I think they're going to be ready for it.
We're going to get a couple more. Cody, go ahead.
You traded 2 first-round picks for Vooch in 2021. Is something like that, even if it's not someone that old, on the radar? Or is your full commitment to using your own first-round picks, getting them in the building, developing them?
I think I'm open to – I'll always be open, during, my years here. Like we've done trades, we've done – we signed free agents, so we're going to look at everything. Everything is on the table. Would that be selecting a player or, looking for value, in trades and free agency? So I think I'm just going to not going to talk about speculations, but next 2 months, we're going to spend a lot of time preparing for it, and hopefully there's going to be opportunities.
When you talk about shrinking the timeline, in your mind, is that shrinking the timeline to being a serious title contender, being a playoff contender? Because when you look at this group, do you see anything there that has the makings of what would be a championship contender?
I think that's the goal of shrinking the timeline, is basically to have a faster turnaround. But I think there's a lot to like about this young roster. I think they've showed it, the second half of the season, and we're going to try to add pieces and get better for next year, and especially in the Eastern Conference.
Artūras, how would you assess Patrick Williams' season?
Well, Patrick had a tough year. I think he struggled. He knows that. We know that he had higher expectations for himself. We had higher expectations for him. I think he'll learn from this season, and finally is healthy. He's going to go into this off season, all this, 5 months to work and get ready for next season. So I think I'm looking forward to see how these lessons this year would capitalize and improve them next year.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.